2023 was the year where I established a lot of knitting foundations. So how to knit stockinette, how to knit in the round, how to do techniques like I-cord bind-offs, I-cord straps, Italian bind-offs. Now thinking of what I want to accomplish knitting-wise in 2024, I have a couple of goals. I want to brand my 2024 knitting year as my year of exploration. And maybe this is just going to be one of many years of exploration, but this is going to be the first significant year of exploration, at least in my head, how I'm envisioning it. So I would like to do a lot more complicated techniques like color work and interesting or intricate stitch patterns, moss stitch, what is that? Seed stitch, brioche? I don't know. I haven't really explored different types of stitches outside of like garter and stockinette last year. I feel like it's a very, maybe apt is the wrong word, but that's the word that comes to mind. It's a very relevant theme for 2024 exploration, because I feel like I'm also at a crossroads in my general life and career in terms of where I want to go next. So exploration is a good theme. So my first goal, like I mentioned earlier, is to do more textured knits. Big cables, small cables, brioche, fisherman's rib, all the crazy, time-consuming, intricate-looking stitches. That's what I want to get into this year. Even broken rib, I haven't really done much of that. I have some plans, some concrete plans I want to walk you through as well in terms of like what I have in mind for textured knits, but my tennis partner just arrived and I'm outside the tennis courts, so we're gonna go play some tennis. Sorry about that. I wanted that cutaway to happen way later, but turns out both me and my boyfriend got to the courts early, which is very unexpected. But anyways, my plans for textured knits. First off, I would like to finish a whip that I started back in 2023, back all the way in last February, which is the Smilla Sleeves pattern by Anne Wenzel. If you've watched my November knitting wrap-up video, you will have seen it as a work in progress. And I actually have it with me. Look at this, I'm working on the sleeve. I'm hoping to finish the sleeve today actually, but this is, yeah, a bolero shrug situation with a honeycomb stitch pattern. Sorry about my needle. It is, I think, my first real venture into a textured knit, something that isn't just in the round stockinette, so I'm really excited to finish it, and once I do finish it in the next couple of weeks, I will be really happy and on my way to accomplishing my first goal of more textured knits. I also want to make the Seaway pullover by Ozetta. I saw this on a couple of people's Instagrams last year. Knits and Gigs, their account comes to mind first, and they did it in this beautiful orangey red color for the tomato soup core mal. I think that's what the make along was called, but they did the Seaway pullover. I was obsessed with it. I think it looks so good. The wave texture is a super subtle all over cable repeat, and I love this one because it's less in your face than like an all over cable sweater, or if, I don't know, if you did like a classic Aran weight cable knit. It's a very subtle cable, which I do like. And I do have a yarn in mind for this. I think I'm going to use Sandnes Garn Pure Gint. I have a stash of 8 or 9 or 10 balls of marzipan, and I think the gauge would be spot on, and it'll be a nice yarn for that pattern because of how much it'll hold that texture, or it'll show off that sort of texture, is my thinking, at least. I also have on my list in terms of textured knits the Nomad jacket by Wool & Beyond. I mean, like, how freaking cool is this pattern, or this jacket? It's honeycomb stitch again for the most part in the front, back, most of the back, and the sleeves, and I think it has a really interesting construction with a horizontal stockinette section in the back. I think it could be cool to do that panel in a separate color than the rest of the jacket, or no, I mean it's gonna look good as one color throughout regardless, just because the texture is going to be different in that section. Anyways, I love it. This jacket is so cool to me. It's got pockets in the front, 2 pockets in the front. I've never done a pocket before. I think that'll be really interesting. The yarn that I think I'm going to use for this, that I at least have in stash, is the Cascade 220 worsted non-superwash wool. I have it in this beautiful navy. I think we'll just, and can you imagine a navy nomad jacket? It's gonna be so cool. Part of me wants it to be like, maybe I should go a little bit more rustic, because the designer's version looks, the yarn just looks very rusticy, and the Cascade worsted is not a super rustic. It's very comfortable. But I don't know, I love the idea of the navy. It seems so cool. I feel like it's gonna be really good. And of course, we can't forget about summer knits. I have the Summer Slipover also on my radar. It's a pattern by Sophie Hogginson, or Strickus. I don't know, that's the designer's name. This one is an all over broken rib tank top. It is knit flat in the front and the back, and then there is a nice I-cord edging detail on the neckline as well as the sides, and there's I-cord straps tying the front and the back together as well. And I've been eyeing this one for a while. I have some leftover Santa's Garden Duo that I think could work for this, or I also have a really cool bamboo merino yarn that I picked up recently in a DK weight that I also think would be really perfect for this, and I've never worked with bamboo before, so that'll also help me explore some different fiber compositions, which is, you know, goes along with like the exploration theme. Okay, now I'm at the mall because I have to return some things that I bought on a whim the other day, and then after the dopamine hit a few days later, I was like, I don't actually need those things, let me go return them, so we're here. But I want to talk to you about my second knitting goal this year, which is to knit color work. I gave this goal its own section because it's something that I really want to hone in on this year. So I don't really know if color work falls under texture. I don't technically think it does, because it's not a texture. It's colors. I have a couple projects in mind for this, and starting with the Sasky sweater by the Petite Knitter. This is a fingering weight colorwork sweater. It's got bunnies. It's hella cute. Originally, I wanted this to be my Lunar New Year sweater, and I actually cast this on in December during Christmas, but the yarn that I picked out had some dye bleeding issues, and now that's on pause until I get my new yarn. So more information to come about that in my monthly sort of knitting wrap-ups, because I don't understand why the yarn bled, because I just swatched and it didn't bleed. It was a whole thing. But I also maybe think this is a good thing, and maybe it's a sign that this should not be my first colorwork project ever. I should probably start with something a little bit easier. So that brings me to the Nova sweater by the Knit Pearl Girl. This is a free colorwork sweater that she just released, and I think it's in like a worsted-ish weight. I just picked up some yarn for this project. I'm really excited to get started. It'll be in a nice deep dark green with white colorwork, and I think it's going to be just chef's kiss beautiful. So keep an eye out if you want to see my progress on that in the future. And then maybe for some smaller scale colorwork projects, I have some colorwork accessories I want to work on as well. So the Pixel Stitch socks by Pearl Soho. This is a free pattern. It's a fingering weight pattern as well. And then also fingerless gloves. I really want to make myself a pair of fingerless gloves this year, and I think the Dappled Hand Warmer, also by Pearl Soho, and also a free fingering weight pattern. I think that'll work really well. So that is my colorwork accessories. I didn't put this down explicitly, but I think it'd be really cool if I could work on some of the Charlotte Stone socks. She has really cute colorwork socks like sunflowers and strawberries, and just cool, very cute, very whimsical. I've seen her book floating around. I almost bought it last year, but I didn't make enough socks to justify buying that book for myself. So maybe this year, if I do more socks and if I do more color work, I could get that book, or at least like test out a pattern or two from her.
From the day you stole my heart, I never ever want to be apart. Don't you feel the times are coming? 'Cause I feel
And then kind of more more broadly in the theme of exploration, I want to explore different yarn brands and different fiber compositions from different yarn companies, and then kind of seeing how the different fiber compositions impact drape and blocking and the fabric and all that. Like, more in my head, it's more sciencey, it's experimentation. So that stuff is really cool to me. I want to branch out in that sense. And then of course, in terms of designers, so I think it's very normal when you're first joining, at least it was for me when I first joined the knitting community, to knit a lot of like big designer stuff like petite knit and my favorite thing is knitwear and stuff like that. Nothing wrong with that, honestly. If you just want to knit those knit from those designers forever, like, more power to you. It's your hobby, it's your craft, do whatever you want. But for me personally, I've been seeing a ton of, and I follow a ton of smaller knitting designers, knitwear designers on Instagram, and I've, you know, saved a lot of patterns on Ravelry that are not necessarily from these big designers, and I really want to make those, and I want to prioritize making those. So one designer that comes to mind is Morka Knits, I think is their name, and in particular their Cecile sweater that was just recently released. It looks so good. I want to make that. And also their Paul sweater and Paul cardigan. I love the fit of it. I have to sit and understand why it's different from other cardigan and sweater patterns I've seen, but for some reason I just really love those three designs from that designer. And then someone else that is top of mind that I really want to make patterns from is Rebecca Clower Creabea, and she got huge last year. I know a lot of people that I watch have made patterns by her, designs by her, and I want to get on that. I think it can be really fun. And in particular, I am eyeing the Cargill. I think it was her first design ever. I just love the little like heart shaped lace pattern. I think it's so elegant and it's like so delicate. I really want to make that next year, or no, this year. My God, where am I? I also have some non-knitting but still crafting goals, and in particular I really want to learn how to sew this year. So my younger sister taught me how to use the sewing machine, and I have, I'll show you in a second, but I have made some very badly crafted pouches. Like, I've started sewing some stuff, and let me show you. Okay, so this, yes, I made this from some random fabric scraps that she had laying around. It is a drawstring pouch, and by the way, the drawstring, putting that in and like putting that all together, I feel like it was like advanced mathematics or something. I could not wrap my mind around it, and I felt like I had to think in 4D for it to make sense. But I want to show you the stitching on the inside. I mean, I feel like if you sew, you can kind of tell that this edge is not it. And then same thing on this side. The edging, I mean, the seam just, it goes all over the place. It has a mind of its own. So in terms of sewing, I would like to keep making square and rectangular shaped objects until I feel comfortable and more confident in my ability to sew a straight line. And then I want to get into garment making. It's a whole nother world. We'll see if I actually get into that kind of stuff, because God knows I have my hands full enough with knitting and all the knitting things I want to do this year. But it's a totally different craft, and I think it's really cool to make your own clothes. So maybe we'll see if that comes down the pipeline. I also picked up this book recently at a Japanese bookstore, and the book is completely in Japanese, but essentially it's Sashiko embroidery. Oh, this is super blown out, but this is essentially my first go at sashiko. Is it sashiko stitching or embroidery? I'll correct myself if I need to, but I think that would be really cute stitching to kind of go over or to put on little pouches and the many bags that I will be creating as I perfect my sewing abilities. So those are also some crafty sewing goals that I have this year, is to get good at sewing, make a bunch of pouches and bags, learn how to install zippers, maybe. We'll see how that goes. Fingers crossed it works out. And then learn sashiko embroidery or stitching, whatever it's called. Okay, those are all my crafty knitting goals this year. They are a subset of a larger list of goals that I have made and set for myself. They're like fitness stuff, work stuff, even gardening. I think it'd be really cool to build a raised bed by myself this year. So Bob the Builder or Aaron the Builder incoming, maybe? I don't know. We'll see if I have time to get to it all. But that's all, at least in this video, for my knitting plans and knitting goals. And I will see you in a couple weeks for the January wrap up.